Okay, you see it in the headlines all the time, right? Inflation is falling. Economists are on TV saying we're heading in the right direction. But then you go to the grocery store, you pay your rent, you look at your bank account, and something just doesn't add up. Today, we're going to break down the real math behind that paradox. And look, you're not just imagining it. This isn't just a vibe. The numbers are telling two completely different stories. And it's creating some very real financial pressure that millions of us are feeling. So why does your money still feel so tight, even when all the quote-unquote good news says it shouldn't? There is a huge disconnect between the economic data we hear about and the financial reality we live every day. And again, you are not imagining it. This isn't about feelings. It's about two economic terms that are incredibly easy to confuse. And check this out. This quote isn't from a frustrated shopper. It's from investment analysts who stare at the hard data all day. They say it plain as day. Even with inflation in the target zone, prices are still going up. That right there, that is the core of the entire disconnect. So to finally clear this all up, we need to understand one crucial distinction. And I mean, this is it. This is the key. It's the difference between speed and level. Once you grasp this, the entire economic picture is going to make a whole lot more sense. Let's start with the official definition. The most important word to focus on here is rate. See, inflation isn't about the price of something. It's about the rate at which that price is changing. Think of it like the speed of a car. And here are those two ideas side by side. The inflation rate, that's the speed. It tells you how fast your cost of living is accelerating. The price level, on the other hand, is the actual cost of things. That's the dollar amount you have to pay. They're related for sure, but they are not the same thing. So, here it is, the single most important point of this whole explainer. When you hear inflation is falling, it does not mean prices are dropping. I'm going to say it again because if you take away one thing, this is it. Lower inflation does not mean lower prices. What it actually means is that the car is still moving forward. Prices are still going up, but you've just eased your foot off the gas a little bit. The hill is less steep, but make no mistake, you are absolutely still climbing higher. Prices are just getting more expensive at a slower pace than they were before. Okay, enough analogies. Let's look at the actual data to see how this plays out. Economists measure this stuff using something called the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. You can just think of it as a giant shopping basket filled with all the things a typical household buys. And here's what that basket shows. Even as the overall inflation rate cools down, just look at the price levels for essentials. These are year-over-year increases. Food is up almost 4%. Shelter, that's rent or mortgage costs, is up over 2.5%. These are not small numbers, and they're on things we absolutely cannot avoid buying. This is the disconnect in action. The headline inflation number might be falling because maybe gas prices have dropped from their peak, but the non-negotiable items in your budget are still marching steadily upward. That's what you're feeling every single day. Now let's talk about the long-term effect of these steady price increases, because it's cumulative. It all adds up. To really understand that, just look at this number. So what is that? Well, that's what you would need in 2025 to buy the same amount of stuff that $1,000 got you back in 1990. Let that sink in. Your money has lost more than half its value. This is the quiet, relentless power of rising price levels. Over time, your money just buys less. And that brings us to the next critical piece of the puzzle, your purchasing power. This is where the rising prices directly hit your income and your savings. It's why a 3% raise can somehow feel like you're actually falling behind. Let's break that down. On one side, you have your raise. That's the number on your paycheck. But what really matters is on the other side, your real purchasing power. That's what your income can actually buy after you account for the higher cost of everything else. And if prices are rising faster than your income, you are going backwards. This isn't just a side effect. It's the main event. This erosion of what your money can actually buy. That is the single biggest, most damaging cost of a high price level environment. So what's the end game here? Well, it's really important to understand the goal of central banks and governments. They aren't trying to turn back the clock. These higher prices are, for the most part, here to stay. You have to get this. The goal of economic policy is to get the rate of price increases under control, not to reverse the prices themselves. They want to slow the car down to a safe speed, not throw it in reverse. Because putting the car in reverse, actually making prices fall across the board, is a situation called deflation. And while it sounds great in theory, it's disastrous for an economy. Why would you buy a car or a house today if you knew it would be cheaper next month? People stop spending, businesses stopped investing, and the whole economy can grind to a halt. Policymakers want to avoid that at all costs. Instead, they have a target. And that target, the magic number they're always aiming for, is this: 2%. This is what normal is supposed to look like. The goal is to have prices continue to rise, but to do so at a slow, stable, and predictable rate of about 2% a year. This is considered the sweet spot. It keeps the cost of living from spiraling out of control. This is the new financial baseline. So that big disconnect we started with, it was never about your feelings. It was always about the math. Prices are at a new, higher level, and the goal is to keep them rising slowly and predictably from here. So the question is no longer why this is happening. The real question is, now that you know the data, how will you adjust your financial strategy to navigate this new reality?